2023 bond updates from Judy Davis.
All right, thank you and good evening. First, before I get started on kind of what's our next steps with our 2023 bond, I would just like to take an opportunity to thank our community who came out on November 7th in support of the next phase for renovations and changes to Forest Hills Public Schools related to our facility. So we're grateful for their support, and here's what's going to happen next. So first, we'll start with our bond construction team. So that group is really comprised of some district staff, our architects. We work with 2 different architects firms here, as well as our construction managers and our tech design consultants. So we actually started this work today. We're getting together and really just confirming our first 3 years of projects, and creating develop a detailed breakdown of our design, bidding, and procurement process. So when we were putting together our bond proposal and the list of projects, one of the things that we did is we really had to map out what projects would occur when, but we did it in big, broad terms. So our next step is really to drill down a little bit deeper. So design, there's multiple phases of the design work. So that's the work that this bond construction team is starting to do now. And new with this bond, it's a much larger bond than we're used to here in this community. So we feel it's really important to do some things a little bit differently. So one of the things that we are going to implement is what we call a bond facilities team. So this will be a group that's comprised of that same group that I just talked about, as well as a couple of board members, and making sure that they are informed and engaged in what's going on with all of our projects. So this group will meet on a quarterly basis, where they will receive updates from our architects and our construction managers on what's going on with our active construction, maybe what they can expect coming up next, right? And in the next couple months, expect that we're going to be bringing bid results for project ABC. So that's kind of what this group will be doing. And then how will we keep our community informed of all of this work with $340 million? So one of the things that's really important is that we are keeping them informed. So we're going to develop a new structure of our webpage that's going to be a lot more robust and detailed than what the community has seen in the past. So some of the things that may include our project blitz, along with anticipated start dates for those for the design work, if it's applicable. Some cases we don't really do a lot of design work and think about purchasing buses. And construction. We would list off our budgeted costs for each of the projects and bid results. So for those projects that were required to go out to bid, we would put the results of those bids online. And then as we progress through the construction, we list off the actual costs for each project. This next one is something that we've been doing. We started this with our 2018 bond. So our construction manager maintains a blog, so we'll continue with that. Sometimes it's just some photos, and sometimes it's some video and conversations with construction superintendents along with building principals. And then we'll also look to post progress photos. These are sort of just the beginning ideas of what we'll have to put on our webpage. So as we progress through, please keep informed and stay tuned rather to that webpage, because we might be adding some more information as we move along. And then at our monthly board finance committee meetings, I provided some high, broad updates with our construction projects. So we'll look to maybe dig a little bit deeper into those and provide something that's a little bit more robust. All right, so those are our next steps with our 2023 bond.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Judy? I know you went over all of this at the committee meeting, so probably all the questions got asked there, but just an opportunity. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Just a reminder, if anybody wants to speak at public comments, to fill out one of the comment cards. They will be picked up later on during the meeting. We will now move on to our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to consider the consent grouping?
I move we consider consent grouping items 7A through D.
Second. Okay, are there any items a board member would like to pull out for special consideration?
I'd like to pull out item number B7. And
moved on to Will. Any items you would like to draw our attention to? Okay. All right, let's go right in then to a curriculum update from Mrs. Tryon.
Yeah, so at this month's meeting, we heard from John DeStefano, who works at Central High, but also oversees the fine arts curriculum and any of the needs in those areas for the district. He detailed his process of sending out an annual survey to the staff in the district who are our fine arts teachers, so that is our visual arts teachers, our choral teachers, our orchestra, band, anything that falls under that umbrella. He's been doing this for 6 years, sending out this survey to compile an action list of needs of our students in conjunction with the continued growth of the programs. He regularly looks at the cost analysis of repair versus replacement for things like instruments, kilns. He did mention that we did purchase 5 new kilns last year. We repaired 3, and we also repaired all pottery wheels and equipment. So just that balancing act of what can we repair, what do we need to replace. He looks at that when he gets those survey results. Also last year, pianos were a focus. 17 upright pianos were replaced with electric pianos in the district. And if we remember, this summer we voted to approve a new grand piano for the Fine Arts Center, a rebuilt Steinway that they found in Indiana at half the cost of a brand new one. This is an exciting arrival that's coming in the next month for the Fine Arts Center, and they are going to do a little concert in the winter to kind of like dedicate this new addition to the Fine Arts Center, kind of a welcome ceremony, if you will, for that piano. I know everyone is very excited about that. And then in terms of ongoing curriculum reviews in the district, the K-5 social studies curriculum is currently undergoing a review. There are no decisions, no recommendations yet on a new one, but I know that will be coming soon-ish. And then there is also a pre-curriculum review happening for high school English language arts teachers, but that one is in its very initial stages, so there is not a lot to report on that, but Mr. Hayes was just letting us know that those are all things that are being worked on. Tonight, we are being asked to approve the purchase of music play, and this was detailed at last month's meeting, as it was up for a 30-day review. And just as a reminder, it's a resource for our K-5 music classes that provide teachers with a wealth of interactive resources for their classes, rhythm flashcards, rhythm play-along tracks, guided listening sets of classical music with analysis questions, ear training listening games, everyone's favorite, interactive recorder play-alongs, and just a lot of other things to help in the music classes. And then to review for next month, we have a 30-day review of 2 books to be used at Central Woodlands, House Arrest and Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. And I just wanted to remind everyone in this room that if you are interested in looking at more detail than what I give in this report about these items that are up for review or up for vote, if you look at the curriculum committee attachments in board book, you can find a list of all of these items, who is requesting it, what is the rationale for it, what state standards it meets, what is the literary merit of these things if it's a book, what funding sources is coming from, and if there's a quote that came with it, like there was for music play, that would be there also that people could look at. So anyone can download these things, anyone can see all that information. Just wanted to give a reminder that that is available for anyone who's interested. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Tryon? All right, we will move on to finance update with Dr. Michelle.
Okay, we had a good meeting as well. November sees us 33% of the way through our fiscal year, 19% of the way through the school year. Much of our discussion centered around the information we just heard from Mrs. Davis about passing and the next steps and how this is going to take shape. And again, the shared desire from, I think, our perspective and the district's perspective to be wide open about where we are with all of this stuff and where these dollars are going to go and the progress as it's being made. So I'm really excited to see how this all evolves and how it starts to benefit kids here now and kids of the future in Forest Hills. One informational item, a budget update will likely be coming to us probably in February. It looks like it's when it will take shape. A lot has happened regarding our funding and our spending since our approval in June. And February looks like the time to be robust, to kind of package it all together and make sure it's all laid out for us nicely. So that is the expectation, is that probably February we'll be able to look at that and look at some of the updates to our budget. And beyond that, the items for our approval, we looked at our monthly financial statements, which don't really have much remarkable to report, all pretty on par for this time of year. Nothing outstanding or miscellaneous. One new action item for us tonight is to approve contracts to perform some construction at Eastern Middle School, which has not been on a long-standing agenda, but where there are dollars in the capital projects fund to create a new security and safety improvement in that building. This is a rendering that you can see on the screen here. It's a new entrance, essentially, to the middle school doors, which are, if you're familiar with the campus, viewers enter on off NAP, where the school buses come in. The entryway to that building right now is essentially a set of double doors, and that's really it. And they're locked, and there's a video kind of conference that you do to get in. But as soon as you're through those doors, you have access to the school, and you actually have to go through the school a little bit to even get to the office and check in and do all of that. So there's some safety and security aspects to be desired there, and this is going to address all of those. So you can see essentially it's all the exterior, of the current face of the building, so it's not a lot of disruption to the inside of the building as this takes place. But what it essentially creates is that vestibule area and the office space that is at Northern High and a couple other buildings that allows you into that space, but then approval, check-in, badge, all that stuff to get through the next set of doors into the school. And it has all of the security features, that are updated and expected in that space. So that's where the office staff will be housed and some other things that belong kind of in that entryway area. So the nuts and bolts of this, there were 16 categories of bids that were put out. We received 67 bids across those 16 categories in total. The district reviewed them. Our construction manager, Owen Ames Kimball, reviewed them as well and reviewed the low bids to make sure they were thorough enough, they met all of the specs, the state requirements, all of that. And they have approved, as has the district for us, the recommendation to award contracts to the low bidder in each category, in all 16 of those. And all of that verbiage and detail is in the board packet that we were able to look at. So construction is ideally set to begin in May coming up, and it will take about a year. So there'll be some rerouting of people traffic and things for that. But about a year-long process for a cost not to exceed $2,907,752. That includes contingency fees, general conditions, and allowances. And again, these are dollars from our 2021 capital projects fund. So I guess any questions about this as a bigger one before we go on?
Do we already have plans for the existing middle school office space?
That I do not know yet, because that will move. I don't know, not that it's needing to be renovated, I don't believe, but I don't know what that interior space will become yet. Anything else? Okay, yeah. Okay, very good. Our next item is the purchase of 5 new school buses. We have bus turnover pretty much every year. We have a fleet of 67 buses that usually have their end of life expectancy around 140,000 miles or so. So to us is the purchase of 5 new buses from the Midwest Transit Equipment at a cost not to exceed $760,030. This is made through the Michigan School Business Officials Aggregate School Bus Purchasing Program, who goes out and finds low bids on all these different models of bus for us to choose from. So the recommendation for us is for 5 new International IC buses is the type of bus. This is the bus that we have been standardizing the fleet to for the last 9 or 10 years. 61 of our 67 buses are this model, if you will. They have the latest safety, performance, usability things. They're favored by the drivers and by the technician and service folks. So obviously standardizing comes with a lot of benefits to maintain lower inventory and lower specialty tools and all of that. And so with this will come the retirement, again, of additional buses who are at the end of their life. which usually sees them either auctioned off or parted out or kind of gotten what we can get for them as well. And so we saw there were bids that we were reviewed for 3 different models. Again, we are looking to standardize anyway. These international buses were not the cheapest, but they were about $5,000 different than the cheapest, which is less than 1% of the overall cost. So it made a lot of sense from all perspectives to still go with these buses to continue standardizing that fleet. So 5 of those for our approval. Next item is for this building is a new wireless communication for the Fine Arts Center. It's essentially the system that everybody works on behind the scenes during production. So backstage can talk to sound, can talk to lights, can talk to everywhere else in the building. The current system is the original, I think, with the building. It's over 20 years old. Sounds like it's just in disrepair and unable to be repaired now and failing with some frequency. So this is an entire new system. 3 quotes were obtained per policy. There were aspects of other quotes that came in that were kind of superfluous, that had some things that they decided that weren't really necessary, different storage things and wall hanging things and stuff. So when those were removed, the bid to us today by BMI Supply was the low bidder, and so that's a cost not to exceed $45,100 for that new system. Our next item is from the Food Service Fund. It's a request to purchase new replacement insulated carts for food service to transport our food around. They're used every day to go between buildings in all kinds of weather, inside and outside, to move our food around the district into our buildings. Most of the current carts we have were purchased in 2001, and they are showing their wear. This request would replace all 30 of these carts. Notably, we're also again at the ceiling of this fund where we're only allowed to keep 3 months of operating expenditures on hand, and we are reaching that limit again. So this is kind of a need and a way to use those dollars anyway. So this is coming from Sourcewell Purchasing Group for a cost not to exceed $47,000, and again, this replaces all 30 of those carts. Our next item is office furniture for the Administration Building Transition Center. This will come out of our 2021 capital projects as well for a cost not to exceed $511,000. This is done through multiple different purchasing cooperatives, at least 3 different cooperatives, and is being provided through Interface Interiors. So it covers all the offices, all the lobby and waiting areas, all the conference rooms, the meeting rooms, storage areas, pretty much every part of this new building with the furniture needs that it has. We're all pretty familiar, there's not a lot to bring over from the current administration building, so that stuff will be sold away or done away with, and then this new furniture will come in. This essentially outfits the entire building with the exception of 3 transition center classrooms that have different specific needs and all of the things that are specific to those environments. So those will come to us separately, but this $511,000 outfits the rest of the building effectively. The next item is the bond refunding, which we pulled out, so we can wait on that if we want, or do you want an overview of what that is before we pull it out to discuss? Sure, okay. So the next is, item 7B7 is an authorization to explore the idea of calling bonds, refunding them essentially to allow us to pay them off earlier and save the district and the taxpayers money in the long term and interest payments that we will no longer have. So this is related to our 2014 bond series, which is a 15-year term scheduled to continue to be paid until 2029. Those bonds become callable in May, which essentially the logistics are complex in bond marketing and reselling and then paying off. It's essentially like refinancing a home, and with the interest rates, it's not the same picture, but the logic is the same, where we can issue shorter term bonds to pay off our longer term debt and then pay off those shorter term bonds faster as well, all again while maintaining the tax rate that we currently have. And again, this allows, the assumption then is that we will be able to pay off the 2014 bond about 3 or 4 years earlier. So 2027, 28, 29, there will not exist these payments, therefore there will not exist the interest on those payments. The projection right now is that saves in the long run about $875,000 for the district, for the taxpayers in the district. Those are dollars that we just simply will not need to levy for those years because that debt won't exist. So this piece, again, is not that action happening, but this is the authorization to give our business office and our debt council the ability to explore what this could look like, to look at the market conditions and put some numbers on paper, and to see how this would actually play out and when the timing would be right. So that is what this item is. That's what it is for us, the authorization to explore that process. Finally, is just another annual item for us, which is to approve a resolution that authorizes the collection of 50% of our district's tax levy in July, which is something that we have done since 1986. School districts by default would collect their taxes once per year in December, and we have always opted to 50% collect in July, 50% collect in December for any number of reasons that we can get into if there are questions. But again, this is an annual item that we do. So again, this is just a resolution to authorize us to do that and levy those summer taxes as well. And again, that verbiage for that authorization is in the packet too. And that is all of the items that we have for this month.